Utah is one of, my understanding is 5 or 6 states that have an opt-out law where we can have our students opt out. Currently we have about 10 to 9% opting out, and so that puts us in a jeopardy of losing our federal funding for all of our title programs.
In one of our school districts, we had over 50% in a traditional school district of opt-out rate. And then in a lot of our charter schools, they have a very high opt-out rate. And a lot of the online schools have a very high opt-out rate. And because, as I said, our state accountability system grants permission for that without any negative consequence going to the student or the school or the teacher, we feel like we can't follow our state law as well as federal accountability without hurting students.
We had a conversation at the state school board what we would like to do. The vote was taken that we would either just give up all that money or we would ask for a waiver. The people that work in Title I schools were very upset because it is a large amount of money. I think it was like $123 million, and then we discussed that maybe a waiver would be better. So we've asked the federal government to provide us with a waiver so that we can still maintain our federal funding.
Does this have any implications for turnaround funding?
It's interesting because even under our current accountability system, because one of the sole indicator we've been using is our state testing, we have 3 or 4 of our turnaround schools with close to or above a 50% opt-out rate. And so the argument would be, are they really needing that funding? Because when you look at other indicators, it shows success. And so one of the things that we're looking at, because state law does grant us the ability to use additional indicators to determine turnaround status, is adding additional indicators so that we can make sure that we're not relying on one test as the sole means of student success.
So what are some of the things that the board is looking at for additional indicators?
We're looking at like your traditional college entrance exam. ACT is the prevalent exam in our state that is used. We're looking at alternative measures for our alternative schools, such as if it was a school focusing on CTE type of programs, looking at certificates and other things to show that they have moved on.
We have a lot of kids who are more successful that are opting out of these tests, which is creating a weird dynamic because our highest achieving students are deciding to opt out, so it's leaving our lowest achieving students without this funding. When we wrote about it in the paper, people were like, well, if it's such a great test, why have our high achieving kids opting out? But it's to make sure that every kid is making growth and every kid meets the standards. So even though our students that are meeting those standards are opting out, we still can't not keep ourselves beholden to the kids that aren't meeting these standards and make sure that we are always trying to bring them up and always having that accountability of keeping everyone to the same standard and bringing them up. Because if we can't educate our least vulnerable, then it creates a burden on our societies of uneducated students.